Extraordinary, Allah has blessed me. Live forever, not temporary.
As a daughter, she is the light of the house. As a wife, she completes half of her iman. As a mother, Jannah lies under her feet. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am Bibi Aisha Leher, presenter and producer of the show Phenomenal Woman, every Thursday between 1:30 and 2:30 right here on IFM 88.3. Tune in to be inspired, educated, motivated and empowered on issues affecting the lives of women. When women stand together, amazing things happen.
Extraordinary, Allah has blessed me. Live forever, not temporary.
Live from Port Elizabeth, South Africa, to the world, this is IFM.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. To my beautiful, phenomenal listeners, it feels so great to be back. I mean, 2 weeks away, overseas, meeting other phenomenal women. And there's something I just need to say to you, that irrespective of race, color, creed, religion, and culture, we are all women. We have the same fears, we have the same hopes, we have the same dreams, we have the same aspirations, and we all to experience breast cancer. That is the topic for this afternoon. So yes, I know October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and no, I'm not behind, because breast cancer awareness does not only take place in October. It should be something that we as women should be aware of every day. Now, this topic is something that has a lot of sentimental value for me, in the sense that I grew up with a mom who was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was just 12 years old. She is now 82, and subhanallah, it's the grace of God, she's perfectly fine. She motivates other people and she is just loving it up. The Almighty is great. So today's show is dedicated to my mom, Zubaida Leher, but it's also dedicated to another woman who is so phenomenal, who I've met recently since I've moved here to Port Elizabeth, and her name is Shamima Kaji. The other strongest woman I know. A woman full of laughter, full of zest, full of energy, full of life. And somebody who told me, Bibi Aisha, you need to interview Professor Carol Ann Ben, because she is an angel. And the truth be told, Professor Carol Ann Ben, who's on the other side of the line, that everybody who speaks about Professor Carol Ann Ben has only words of kindness and inspiration and hope. When you think Professor Carol Ann Ben, you think cancer can and will be beaten. So an absolute pleasure and honor for me to be speaking to Professor Carol Ann Ben. Good afternoon and welcome to
Hi.
Phenomenal Woman.
The privilege is mine, because like you say, when you tell your story about your mom, okay, the phenomenal women are the women who come in when they feel lumps in their breast, who go through their biopsies, who land up going through, whether it be chemo or just surgery and radiation and hormonal treatment. Those are the phenomenal women. So that is why I do what I do, because they inspire me and they humble me. It's such a difficult journey, and we respect and salute them for also telling their stories. So making their stories available so that we take away the fear of this word cancer that we are all so fearful of.
But before I even continue with the interview, I need to tell you something, Professor, that everybody that saw the social media poster and messaged me and they're like, what a compassionate woman. What a caring person. She's not just a doctor, she's an angel. And I think that for me meant so much, because, as much as we know cancer can be beaten, when you hear cancer, it paralyzes you. And to have a doctor who is so kind and compassionate and supportive, that gives you that strength that, listen, we got this. And this is the impression that I have of you. I mean, I can't wait to meet you in person, that you are in this journey with, I won't even say your patients. No, but I swear to you, I don't think they're your patients. I think they're your friends. Because that's how you treat them.
They're my family. They're more than my friends. They're my family. And I do it with love in my heart. And I think they probably lots of doctors, we hope, that do the same thing and go the extra mile. I always say medicine's about service, but I haven't seen any posts. I have no social media. I have WhatsApp, okay?
Yes.
I understand WhatsApp, and that's about it. But it's a privilege to be here, and I love the fact that you started by saying that you're not behind, even though it's not October, because you're right. I actually wish more people would do their awareness campaigns, not in October, and in different months of the year, because breast cancer and any cancers are not a 1 month awareness. It's about a constant reminder to know your body, know your norm, check your body, and if you are concerned, to seek health care and ensure that it's your body, your temple, so it's your right to good health care, whether it's from a government unit or a private unit. We need to push for better access and better care for people. It's just, for me, it's a human rights issue.
Absolutely. Now, doctor, for those people who sometimes, when they hear cancer, they sort of shun away. And, it's not a matter of ignorance, but it's a matter of fear, because unfortunately we assume death equals cancer, but there's no such thing, So, doctor...
I also love that you say, and I want to just harp on it, that you say it's not ignorance, it's fear. Because ignorance is probably my worst word on the planet.
Yes.
No one. There's not a human that is ignorant. It's a very negative connotation word. You know if you've got a lump in your breast, a headache, a pain in your foot, a stone in your shoe, if you're tired. It's your human, your basic abilities and nerves tells you know what's going on. It's why are people not accessing or not doing something about what symptoms they are feeling. And it can be anything from fear of the systems, the fact that our environments are hostile to patients, that it might be that the doctors don't speak to them, that they've heard stories about the treatment. So there are many combination of factors that result in people not arriving or coming in late. Whether it be from fear of conventional treatment. So demystifying and explaining to people a little bit about that 65% of people who get cancer have no risk factors, and it's your body, not the doctors. It's not an emergency. It doesn't run around your body in 24 hours. Work out the costs. You don't need to rush into operations to find out what something is. We can plan and do a sensible needle biopsy, get the information, discuss things in a multidisciplinary environment, give people options, listen to them is very important when it comes to medicine.
Absolutely. Doctor, I think if we can go, or should I say Professor, whichever one you're comfortable with, can we start?
You can call me Carol.
From the very beginning, Carol, what is breast cancer?
So basically, all cells are born. They have little divisions that happen, and during the cell divisions, they usually have we've got lots and lots of 3,000 little DNAs, and they have a little when they divide, one of them can be abnormal, but usually your body kills those out. If you have 6 or 7 mutations at one sitting, it's slightly more difficult, and then you have 70 or 80 bombardments due to environmental, genetic, and other factors, and then a little cancer cell is born, and then that cancer cell will have its own baby cells and develop into its own little family. So if it's in the breast, it's a breast cancer. If it's in the colon, it's a colon cancer, and that's why you have cancers in different parts of the body. But it's really a similar process, and there are many factors that play a role to get these little cancers to develop. So it's not one simple thing. So it's not one thing someone did wrong. It's a multitude of factors, and often also the environment around which those little cancer cells are changing, called the tumor microenvironment, is critical to helping out and assessing and managing how the cells behave.
That was going to be my next question. Who would be at risk of having breast cancer, or what would be the factors? So
65% of people have no risk factors. The risk factors that we churn out at at medical school are things like how old were you when you started seeing your period? When did you go into menopause? Did you breastfeed your baby? Obviously, we want to encourage people not to smoke, and nice in your community, no alcohol. But we want to encourage people who listen to decrease their alcohol intake, their BMI, keeping their body mass index under 30. So there are all those contributing factors, but it's not one thing. So people and family history on your father or mother's side of breast and or other cancers. So we don't want people to be complacent and say we do everything right and I have no family history and this can't happen to me. We know that breast cancer is neither ageist, racist, nor sexist, and it can happen to young people and it can happen to old people and people from different ages and all different walks of life. So what we want to encourage them is to examine their breasts, know their norm, check their breasts, and examine their breasts gently. Don't squeeze the nipples. Check carefully with your arm relaxed at the side for little glands on the side so that we can make sure that we don't miss anything. Watch for changes on your nipple, a red hot inflamed breast, pulling in of the nipple. All those features are important to watch for.
If you suspect that you have any of those things, would the process be you go to your GP and get a referral?
Absolutely. So you go to your GP will organize a mammogram and an ultrasound for you, either in a government or in a private hospital. And when you have your mammogram and ultrasound, do not rush in to needle biopsies until you understand the costs. So that's when you want things reviewed, because you don't want to land up with expensive biopsies and it's not something. So there's good and bad and ugly in medicine, and what we want to explain to people is we want them to take the power into their hands about their bodies. So then you want a review of it, you want to understand the cost of the needle biopsy, you want the results, you want to understand that it's concordant, it means it matches. So if they see a little lump and they do a biopsy, it must tell you what the lump is. It can't just say benign breast tissue. And then we want people to have an opportunity to not be forced into, you see this radiologist only refers to this doctor, go to this doctor. No, it's your body. You have a right to seek help wherever you want to seek help. Ask questions so that you understand what's going on.
Absolutely. So when they say go, how is breast cancer diagnosed? I know to have a mammogram is highly recommended. I must admit, I've only had it done once in my life, and that was under duress, which I must thank Dr. Mary Dina for. She's a gynecologist in Indonesia. She was my mom's gynecologist. And she actually scolded me to say, "You've never had a mammogram. What is wrong with you?" And thank you, because, you hear these horror stories, and then sometimes you think, it won't be me. But it's just safety precautionary measures.
Absolutely. So the most important precautionary measure is knowing your norm and checking your breast. Under 35, if you find anything concerning, then you go for a core biopsy, an ultrasound and a core biopsy. If you're over 35 and you find something concerning, you go for a mammogram, ultrasound and core biopsy. So it's not that you can't do mammograms in young people, but because the tissue is dense, the pickup rate is slightly harder to find things.
And how is breast cancer diagnosed? Like we said, we do the mammogram, you may do biopsies. What else do you do?
A needle biopsy, and then on that biopsy report, it'll tell you it's not a cancer or it is a cancer. Once we know that it is a cancer, we want to register you on oncology. We want special stains so that we can understand what is the personality of the cancer. So whereas it's important to understand your stage, how big is the cancer and is it in the glands, it's more important to understand the behavior of the cancer. Is it a lazy luminal A cancer, a luminal B, which is hormone sensitive, with a slightly higher TACI, a triple neg or HER2? We want to understand how it behaves, because we treat cancer more on how it behaves than the stage.
That's so important to know. That is really so important to know. Okay, I think another question that I'm going to ask, with the advancement in medical technology and, there's always new things coming. When would it be necessary to have a mastectomy? Is there a way that it can be treated?
Very few indications for a mastectomy still remain. Okay. That is an inflammatory breast cancer, red hot inflamed breast, which gets chemo first, and the surgery is a mastectomy, even though we reconstruct those immediately in our unit, so you land up with a breast mound immediately. The other indication is when you've got cancer all over the breast, obviously, because then it's all over the breast, but we'll still reconstruct. And then the third indication today is Paget's, if you've got cancer in the nipple, because sometimes it's hiding cancer in the breast, but that too is also changing. So most people today can have a breast-saving operation. That's important to know.
Do women generally, would it be cancerous on one breast or two? Because I know some women that after they've had a mastectomy, they would actually, out of precaution say, okay, remove the other one. Or sometimes there are women that... they're just fearful. If you could just elaborate further, please.
So I think that is such a wonderful question. So cancer does not jump from one breast to another, okay? If cancer wants to spread, it spreads elsewhere in the body, which is why we always teach the concept of what I call the umbrella of care. So it's understanding that if you've got awake cancer, often people say to me, if I take off both my breasts, will I avoid things such as chemo or radiation? And the answer is no, okay? So if you need oncology treatment, you need oncology treatment. No, doing surgery first or taking out all the tissue is going to prevent that need. So anyone who tells you, quick, it's an emergency, take both your breasts off tomorrow, is telling you a complete untruth, okay? That's why you take time, don't rush in, understand the behavior of the cancer, and like I said, it doesn't jump from one breast to another. If cancer wants to spread, it wants to spread elsewhere. So it's a misnomer. Sometimes people choose to take out all the tissue out of anxiety. But they must understand taking out the breast tissue in both breasts is not necessarily going to prevent you from having more chemo elsewhere or more chemo again or having radiation. That's the important thing that people should know.
Carol, difference between radiation therapy and chemotherapy, like in some cases, some women only would get radiation therapy, some would just get chemo. Okay. Please, if you could elaborate further. And what is chemo tablets?
Okay, so let me start off by saying, and I'm going to get, after we finish this, I'm going to get Dominic to send you a recording called The Umbrella of Care, which you can put out on the website for your patient. So imagine an umbrella, okay, but imagine it's got two hooks, two arms at the bottom, and there's the person by the umbrella. So what does the umbrella do? It protects you from the rain. So if you've got an awake cancer, oncology, the umbrella is the most important part. The two little hooks, the one side is surgery and the one side is radiation, because they go hand in hand. Okay. So let's look at someone gets diagnosed with a breast cancer. We stage it. We say it's a T1, 2, 3, or 4 in the glands. And then we plan the treatment, whether we start with oncology treatment, which is a big word that just means medicines to treat cancer. So you get 4 types of medicines to treat cancer. You get a big group called endocrine, which is hormonal, and all cancers that have estrogen or progesterone sensitivity. It doesn't mean to say they're caused by estrogen and progesterone, but they have receptors on the cell that allow for an easy way to target the cells. Will have hormonal treatment. Most people have hormonal treatment, which is your tablet, after the surgery, okay, and after completion of other oncology treatment. A small subset of patients today with lazy cancers who are older, we start them on hormonal treatment, shrink the cancer down, and then we can even freeze the cancers and avoid surgery. The second oncology treatment group is what people understand as chemotherapy, which basically is cytotoxic medicines that kill cells. and they are often given in a drip, but they can also be given as an oral tablet or another type of injection. All they are is a group of medication that kills cancer cells, okay? Then the other group we have is targeted treatments, which target little receptors on the cancer, either inside the cell or outside. And the last group is immunotherapies, things that modulate people's immune system. So when it comes to local treatment of breast cancer, that is surgery and radiation. Surgery is when you take out the cancer, you move a bit of tissue around, and you reconstruct at the same time. And you check a few little glands, which are your security guards, usually under your arm, which is where the cancer will want to drain to. And you don't have to take out lots of glands, like 7-Eleven.
Okay, we're just checking. I think we have a little bit of an interruption there. My sound engineer is just going to check what is going on. Anything, Hamid? Okay, so we just trying to see this hiccup, what's going on here. Lots of interesting information. We assume we know, and yet we don't know. And like we said, a lot of times we have this impression that cancer is equivalent to death. Remember, death it's all excuses from God of what will happen, and cancer can be beaten. Cancer can be beaten, and as Carol explained very perfectly, that the women who survive breast cancer, they are our warriors. They are our heroines. The very astonishing thing for a lot of people is that when they see somebody or they find out somebody has breast cancer, and we could be very awkward around them because we don't know how to speak to them, and we want to wish them well and wish best for them, but we may not be able to express how we feel towards a cancer patient. And I'm going to be speaking to Dr. Carolyn Ben about that just now. Sorry, my angel, I think we just had a bit of a hiccup, so I was just talking a little bit about, we think it's a death sentence, but it's not. And, when we're offering support, we're going to see somebody who's been recently diagnosed, but I think we'll come to that part a little later. So sorry, doctor, you were talking about obviously the various forms of treatment with chemo and radiation.
When we were cut off. So had I spoke about cytotoxics, about things that kill cells? We
were talking about those cells with the basic treatment of radiation therapy and when it's breast reconstruction.
Local treatment.
Yes.
Okay, so local treatment is taking the cancer out and checking a few glands, and we don't need to check out many glands. And then the next story is radiation. Anyone who has a cancer bigger than 5 centimeters, or an advanced cancer to start, or cancer in the glands, or a breast-saving operation will all need radiation. So surgery and radiation, that's why I say they're the two arms and they go hand in hand together. So oncology's umbrella. Then you have your two arms of surgery and radiation, and there's strict rules for each part of the treatment. So you can't replace one thing with another. You've got to make sure that you are managing things properly. So you can't say, I'm taking both my breasts so that I can avoid a treatment, or if I have one treatment, I won't need another. What we are seeing is treatment de-escalating. So this is a very nice concept. So I was recently at a meeting in the US, and it means that less is more. And I always say and teach in my unit, less is more. We are doing more genetic profiling of tumors, so we do less chemotherapy. We do less radiation. We do smaller surgeries, cleverer reconstructions. We take less glands in the armpits. So what patients need to know is it's not bigger is better and more is better for cancer. It's about personalized care and making sure we are carefully making personalized treatment plans for each patient. There are some patients we don't even need to operate on. and treatment is de-escalating and getting less is more. Okay.
That is so good that you brought that up because it clears a lot of misconceptions and alleviates people's fear. Now, I have so many other
Absolutely.
questions. I've been bombarded with messages prior to the show, so I'm going to try and see if I can accommodate for all of them. So, side effects. That's another thing where people are very afraid of. You again, it's this fear and maybe assumptions of horror stories of radiation therapy and chemotherapy. So if you can just please clarify the myths for us.
Okay. So you can have side effects to water. You can have side effects to walking in the road. You can have side effects to exercise. So side effects can be a part of normal things. You can have side effects to eating too much of a big fatty meal and getting gallbladder symptoms. So when you start a treatment, every treatment has a potential for side effects. So I often like to give the example around oncology. Is oncology always starts off with the side effect. That is because the history of oncology treatment, in 1952, the surgeons were king. They cut everything out. They said on the patients that, the cancers came back, the inflammatory cancers, we can't treat you, go to the little nerdy, and I'm talking completely in analogies. I have very close non-nerdy physician friends, and they go to these doctors, and if they can't manage you, but the cancer's going to kill you or the medicines are going to kill you. But actually what happened is 50% of the people survived, and that's how the field of oncology started off. The difference in oncology and cardiology, think about this. You go to your physician, and your physician says your cholesterol's high. I'm going to put you on a statin. If you don't take the statin, you're going to get a heart attack and die. Everyone takes the statin. No one looks at the side effects of the statin. When you go to an oncologist, the oncologist goes, I'm terribly sorry you've got cancer. I'm going to give you this medicine. These are the side effects. Not, you've got cancer. The cancer's going to try and get around your body and kill you because it's a terrorist. Yes, there are side effects that we can manage, but I want you to try. So I always say when it comes to people talking about side effects, you have two types of people in this world. Those ones who say, gee, I'm terribly sorry to hear your news. How can we help you get through this? Or those who go, oh, my golly, I'm so sorry. My auntie had this. She got burned. This one had this. So remember my previous comment, less is more.
Yes.
The treatments are becoming more refined. So you can't look back and say so-and-so had this and therefore, because otherwise we would never progress and get anywhere. Look at the history of how we've improved with ARVs. Now you can get injectable ARVs and now vaccines. People talk about the side effects. I remember 30-odd years ago getting blood splash in my eye when I went to help out at another hospital, and the patient had end-stage AIDS, and I went home and I was like, this is it, and I'm going on all these ARVs, and within 2 days I had such bad side effects, I had to stop the treatment. I thought this was it. I'm now going to land up with big problems. Thank God, inshallah, I never did. Okay, but the treatment today is completely different to the treatment then. So what you've got to do is you've got to say to yourself, medicine's evolved, the management of side effects gets better. Not everything has bad side effects. You've got to look up the balance between what the disease is doing and what the potential of the cure of the medicines are. And I always think it's silly not to try. What's the worst thing that can happen? You can try and fail.
And
but
I'm
not trying is sad.
And I'm sure you could add on that we may have, an example, I may have breast cancer, you may have breast cancer, but my body and your body is not the same.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Our bodies are different. The cancers are different. So you can't recipe it because auntie had this and because granny had this, I'm going to have the same thing. Not at all.
Definitely. My sweetheart, we're going to break shortly for an ad. Please, you don't go away. And our beloved listeners, you don't go away.
IFM, keeping you inspired, updated and educated.
I will never, ever, never let you go. Forever blessed from head to toe.
Oh, yes! Catch the Youth Boot Show every Friday from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. with your hosts, Colin Chaipa and Hamid, giving you good vibes and love on IFM 88.3.
Yeah, yeah. That's how my heart goes.
تذكر يوما كنت تعانق دمعة الفكر تناجي الله في صبر وترجو رحمة تسري فعاش القلب إخلاصا وصرت تحوم كالطير تحلق في ثقافات وتنهل من ربى الخير ترى ما زلت تذكرها وتذكر رواتها
IFM 88.3. Throughout the Bay, around the world.
We were young, but stars on the wall. Pray you were the one starting teacher wouldn't call. We would stare at each other, cause we were always in trouble. And all the cool kids did their own thing. I was on the outside, always looking in. Yeah, I was there, but I wasn't. They never really cared if I wasn't. We all need someone who gets you like no one is right when you need it the most. We all need a soul to rely on, a shoulder to cry on, a friend through the highs and the lows. Not gonna make it alone, not gonna make it alone. Forgiving eyes, looking back at me from the other side, like you understood me, and I'm never letting you go. Oh, we all need someone who gets you like no one is right when you need it the most. We all need a soul to rely on, a shoulder to cry on, a friend through the highs and the lows. Gonna make it alone, not gonna make it alone, not gonna make it alone, not gonna make it alone. We all need someone who gets you like no one is right when you need it the most. We all need a soul to rely on, a shoulder to cry on, a friend through the highs and the lows. Not gonna make it alone, not gonna make it alone, not gonna make it alone.
Nelson Mandela Bay's friendly voice, IFM.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to every woman that is listening in today, to every man that is listening in today, to my listeners from across the globe, the people that I've made friends with on my recent travels. And I need to just let our listeners know that a lot of men tell me they've started listening to Phenomenal Woman, so they know how to deal with the woman in their life. They're like, okay, Bibi Aisha, now I know. I'm like, hope so. So, that's what we try to do. It's not a show solely for women. It's a show to highlight challenges and experiences of women holistically, and challenges and experiences of women globally. It's not anything that is directed at a particular community or society. It is global issues. And I'm so delighted that on the other side of the phone, I'm speaking to Professor Carol Ann Ben. Professor, I know you're going to be very humble about this because I can obviously pick up the way you are. God bless you. But you are known as the guru of breast cancer, just to let you know.
No, I've actually got the guru team. So I'm just like a middle-aged blonde, and I'm telling you that the strength is in the team. You've got to recognize the fact that doctors must leave their ego at the door, and you need to be able to ask for help. Ask for help means that you discuss every aspect of the patient with a team. And important members of the team that people always forget are the navigators, people who have, some of them have had cancer, some of them haven't, who help a person work their way through a journey, which is quite a hard medical journey, okay? And you get many types of navigators, from financial navigators, helping out with where you get your funding and your this from, to oncology navigators, to surgical navigators, to radiology navigators, to oncology, psychology aspects, because many people who go through cancer have anxiety, have subclinical depression. It is very hard. And then there's the members of the team, from the oncologists, pathologists, radiologists, and it's about working together and everyone keeping out the checks and balances, and that's the best way to protect patients and make them safe. So there's nothing guru about me. I have a very guru team.
God bless you. But that comes from your leadership and inspiration. Remember, we rise by lifting others. So
Absolutely.
Carol,
Amen.
just humbly accept it, because you're not going to win here today, right?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, now I think we need to get to this part now, which I'm very glad that you highlighted here. That aside from the physical changes and challenges that's going on with the cancer, that's the one thing that a patient is dealing with. I'm not going to even say patient, I'm going to say cancer warrior. There's the mental aspect, the psychological aspect. There could be depression, there could be anxiety. It's like, what's going on through my mind? Is this fear when they're going through all of this? And then to add to this, like you mentioned earlier, which I mentioned during the time where we had a little bit of a break, that when somebody comes to visit you or they want to give you a call, I'm sure they have the best of intentions, but sometimes people don't realize that what you're saying is not what I want to hear right now. Like, I would assume, just be out of pure common sense and courtesy. Yeah. So where is the cancer? How far is the cancer? What did doctor say? No, you're not helping. You're not helping. So please, if you can talk about that.
What's an important thing that we need to encourage everybody to understand is what comes out your mouth.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So the power of honest and positive, and not confessing all the negativity, etc. Because so one thing I always tell my kids, it's like, watch what you put into your head. You know, and it's a good lesson around this country, and it's around the world, and it's around everything. I'm not saying live your life as if you live in Disney, not being aware, okay? But if you keep on filling yourself with negativity, it just breeds more negativity, and it's not a good thing. So we always need to find solutions, and that comes through going through a cancer care and somebody tells you something's come back. Look to see what. Before you start, just go into another treatment with the same doctor. See what trials are available, what your options are. We need to understand, for people going through a cancer treatment, that it affects the partner, it affects the children, and we need to take cognizance of that when we look after people. A person is not usually an island unto themselves, but they are usually part of relationships around them, and all these affect every aspect of your ability to cope with what everyday life throws at you.
Absolutely. I just need to make another, comment, and this I'm talking from personal experience. So when you see somebody with cancer, and then this somehow, like we said, it's not ignorance, it's probably just fear. So we assume that they laying in a hospital bed, they look really, really, really terrible, and they're going to be in a hospital bed for months and months on end. And there's no such thing. Growing up with a mom who beat breast cancer, growing up with a dad who beat cancer in his bladder. There were days when people would ask, how are your parents? And I would just say, they're fine. It was obviously at different times, because one day you have the strength and energy to take on the world. You can run a marathon. You're like, bring it on, babe. And then the next time, maybe for the next 2-3 days, you're a little bit ill. So it's not that whole thing like, I'm going to die. No, not at all. It's all how you balance and manage it with the team, like you said, the team that you have that motivate cancer warriors to say, we got this. So
I have lots of handouts, and you're welcome to them. And one of them is on ghost busting. It's choose your team around you. And I love that you put that, we all have days where we like, oh, great day. And then we have days like, oh, okay. every single person, and all I can say for people is it's one day at a time, okay? And you know the nice thing is you can get things right, you can get things wrong in your personal life or your whatever, but you know what? Okay, to have an opportunity to get up the next day and to try again and know that none of us are perfect is a good thing. And that's so important. And you do it with support, and sometimes you just do it by going, I'm fine, okay? And just go one step ahead of one another. But what it is for people who are in the near vicinity of other people, we need to recognize, okay, that each person is going through stresses and strife, and we just need to be supportive in a positive way. That is so important.
Most definitely. I just need to mention something. You know, people would assume, again, I would assume this as well. I would have, because of, again, past experience, that once you have, the operation and it's reconstructive surgery, and would you have to spend a very long time in the clinic. And obviously, like we say, with the advancement in many medical science. So earlier in the year, I was at St. George's Hospital here in Port Elizabeth for some procedure. And there were these two beautiful women, both of them. In fact, the joke was, or we're laughing that the two of them were neighbors in theatre dealing with two different doctors, and the two of them were now neighbors in the ward. I mean, they were next to each other in the same room across us, and both of them were so amazing. You know, the one patient had chemotherapy. She unfortunately, I had a bit more of a challenge. She was a patient for breast cancer for a little bit longer than the other, but the next day both of them were discharged, and I'm like, but you just had an operation, and I could see the drainage filters and whatever. So I need you to please elaborate further that how long generally is the staying period in the clinic or hospital, or how does this all work?
So it varies, okay? Technically, usually the maximum is 36 hours, 2 days. So I think the way we're doing lesser, cleverer surgeries now, it is highly unlikely for people to spend days and days and days in hospital post-surgery. So we try and do things in as much of an outpatient setting from an oncology point of view and from a radiation point of view. And when it comes to surgery, like I said, less is more, 36 hours. In hospital, our surgeries take on average an hour and a half. I try to say to people, avoid these long where it takes them 6, 10, 12 hours to do these reconstruction. Absolutely not. Surgery drops your immune system, and it's not a good thing to have people being rushed into long surgeries and complicated surgeries.
Now, please, you could explain to me what was those sort of drainage? They were like two little containers. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to ask these two amazing ladies, but I'm curious to know for the sake of education.
Drainage is about when you operate in certain parts of the body, you leave drains in to collect what we call the serous fluid. And our body has to learn to reabsorb that fluid. And for some people, it takes longer than others, okay? And for other people, if the drains are in for not a long period of time. Some people in different places of the world actually just don't put drains in and just let the fluid collect inside. But as some of my patients will tell you, when that happens, that is not so nice at all, okay? So we prefer usually to put little drains in so that we can get an idea in terms of how their bodies are reacting to what we call third space fluid. And then it means that our body slowly absorbs the fluid, and then we take the drains out.
Thank you so much for clarifying that for me. I have a question from one of our listeners that messaged me like 3 times this week. Can men get breast cancer?
Absolutely. What a wonderful question. Men can get breast cancer too. In fact, sub-Saharan Africa is one of the highest incidents of breast cancer in the world. It sits at 3%, and the rest of the world sits at 1 to 2%.
Sure. That's very, very important. Now, when it comes to mammograms, again, I mean, I was advised that, we would fall under high risk because, if you had a mum who's beaten breast cancer. So generally, when should women start going for a mammogram, just for like a general checkup and, overall wellness?
So if you have breast cancer in your family, then we usually say start 10 years before your youngest relative was diagnosed, okay? But the general rule is screening is about health economics. So screening in South Africa, if you're on a medical aid, is from 50 to yearly. But like I said, if you find something concerning in your breast, you must go and you must seek help, please. So don't just assume that it's not something concerning. It most likely isn't something concerning, but don't leave it.
Breast self-examination, if you can just briefly talk us through it, because again, it's good to be empowered. That's what the show is about. So if you could just please talk us through a breast self-examination.
Absolutely. We want people empowered. We want people keeping an eye on their body and going one step at a time.
Okay.
Right. Questions or concerns that anyone else has?
Okay, like we said, you're going to please talk us through the breast self-examination.
Okay, breast self.
Yeah.
Okay, so I thought I had it here. So
No
basically,
problem.
a breast self-examination is you're going to stand in front of the mirror. You're going to lift your arms to the side. You're going to obviously take your bra off. You're going to give your breast a jiggle. By giving your breast a jiggle, you're checking carefully to see what's going on. Is anything pulling on your nipple? You check your nipple that there's no redness on the top of the nipple. If you've got change on your areola, which is the brown skin around your nipple, that can be things such as eczema, and particularly if it's itchy. So what we're looking for is a red change on the top of the nipple, and if your breast is looking red and hot. Remember, breasts are different shapes and sizes, and completely one breast can be bigger or smaller than the other breast. The breasts hang on a muscle, and when you feel the breast with your 3 fingers, you feel gently, gently, gently. It's called blocking the tissue. You just move the tissue gently to see what's going on, if you can feel any lumps or bumps. And knowing your norm is making sure it's the same each month when you check, and you pick your day each month in terms of if you see your periods a week after your periods, or if you don't, you pick a calendar day and you decide this is the time you're checking your breast. You also check your armpits, the glands under your armpits, to check that there's nothing concerning there. So you feel gently, gently with your arm relaxed at the side, not with your arm above your head, which is like you see in some of the magazines. That is not the right way to check your breast. That is the position they assume when they do an ultrasound, and it puts the tissue on stretch, which is why you can't feel the glands so easily when you do that.
That is fantastic. Now, I have to read out this message. I've received so many messages about you, but I'm going to say this to you. I'm not going to say the name. I will tell it to you off air. So this person is overseas, by the way, and she says, I echo every word said about Carol and her team. And she says that she's obviously had surgery with you. And she says that your team and you obviously was super efficient in getting her all the information from archives that she needed in less than 24 hours. She says, by listening to you right now, it's amazing how nothing that you're saying you're putting up. This is exactly how you are at every appointment. And she's so grateful, towards you for everything you and your team have done. And I promise you, probably right now, there's so many messages from ladies that have worked with you. And I think this is so important as a reminder to your colleagues around the world that in dealing with patients, I'm not going to say patients, I hate that word. I'm going to say cancer warriors. You being positive, because your energy and you showing that hope, you're giving your cancer warrior that hope.
Yeah, and I like that you said, I also don't like the word patients. It's so similar. So I find that they're people.
Yes.
They're people like me and you.
Yes.
and the least we can do is to be polite always, be honest, but not cruel, okay, and be positive, because I honestly do feel the power of positive and good will always outweigh anything. And I do think, I love the way in your breaks, listening to your prayers and everything. So people with a strong spiritual connection seem to manage crises so much better. And I would one day love to publish on it. Obviously I can't, because there's so many variables. But I do think support and spiritual background and help makes such an important in dealing with
With
crises
anything.
that we
Yes.
all have in our lives. Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, I think another thing I need to mention here, and you know, this is another motivational speaker, life coach speaking, and you're more than welcome to elaborate further, that you are not your sickness, you are not your diagnosis. You can't say, there's Bibi Aisha, the cancer patient, there's Carol, the cancer doctor. You are not your diagnosis. You may be experiencing it, but you are not cancer. It's just a phase that you're going through.
Yeah, you see,
Somebody
you
could
and I
have,
are
yes.
very similar. Very similar. Because I
Absolutely.
always say, you're more than a breast, you're more than a cancer, you are you. Okay, each cancer's different, each person's different. And what we want to do is we want to own you and help. So when I lecture, I always say the strength of the team. So there are many things that I am useless at, geographically challenged, useless at. But what makes someone successful is recognizing what are your non-strengths and surrounding yourself with people who can build into those and you build into their non-strengths. Okay? And that is what makes for a better and more constructive team, whatever you're dealing with. Very important.
Now, I'm going to ask you some of the basic questions that, you know, lots of people would want to know, or maybe myths surrounding cancer. Wearing an underbra, wire bra causes cancer?
Absolutely not. So
Thank you.
The lymphatic drainage goes deep along the chest wall, so wearing an underwire bra makes absolutely no difference.
Okay.
So does deodorant, so does keeping your cell phone in your bra, so does someone trauma to your breast, etc. Often people say, I had an injury to my breast and that's why I felt a lump. By having an injury to their breast, that's why they checked their breast and that's why they found that there was a lump. So that's the difference.
Using the microwave causes breast cancer?
No. I don't know how to switch it on though. So.
But I need to ask you this because these are very, 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 very important questions. Cancer is a punishment and you should not get medical treatment. You should go to a faith healer.
So having a faith healer part of your team is a good thing, but cancer is not a punishment. This is something that happened at a cell level. It's not a punishment. It's a cell that's gone rogue, and there are many, many cells because there were little hits in its environment, okay? Okay? It's a very clever someone who punishes one cell to change, okay?
Yes.
You know, if it's a punishment, you'd be struck by lightning.
Now,
okay?
you do know that I'm playing good cop, bad cop here, right? Because I'm basically clearing the myths.
I absolutely hear it. These are very important questions.
Yes.
It is not a punishment, okay? Whoever, be it our spiritual ancestors, be it our God, be it our this, okay, didn't put us on this planet, imperfect people that we are, to punish us every step of the way, okay? And they put us there to enjoy and help and give forward and help others, okay?
Now the myth. If the result of your mammogram screening was normal last year, you won't need to have another screening the following year.
So that's not true because cells change all the time. And remember, we screen according to what our screening guidelines are, be it medical aid. They're none for a government point of view. So if you've got a problem, you come into a government unit. So, but if it's normal, then you still go the following year or the second year afterwards because that's how you check. Things change. That's why you go for your pap smears. That's why you check your cholesterol and your blood because things change.
The next myth I have to ask you this. This is very important. There's nothing you can do to lower your risk of breast cancer.
Absolutely. You can't prevent cancer, but you can lower your risk. Exercise is critically important. Exercise decreases your risk by 42%. Obviously, don't smoke. Obviously, cut down on your alcohol consumption. Obviously, try and keep your body mass index under 30. And someone asked me earlier, is it sugar? No, it's amount we eat, okay? It's not one thing. So you can't, diet is important, but there's not one thing. So it's not if you cut out this or cut out that. It's about quality. No one's perfect. So if you have that chocolate brownie or that chocolate, don't be too hard on yourself. It's about just checking all the options and making one day at a time, do as best as you can, and know that everyone gets it wrong at some stage.
There's two more questions I'm going to ask you, and then we're going to round off. Sadly, I don't want to let you go because you're so inspiring. God bless you. Breast implants can cause breast cancer.
No, they can't cause breast cancer. Certain type of the older implants, the textured implants, can have a slightly higher incidence of breast lymphoma. It's about 2 to 4%. So if you've got old textured implants, then they must be checked and checked regularly. Okay. I always try and say, so I can understand people going for breast reduction if you've got big breasts, functionally making them smaller. I do say breast augmentation. I always say, God's giving you small breasts, that's okay, you know. But it's personal choice. I'm not anti. I'm just always aware that if you fiddle, etc., that if something goes wrong or if you have a complication, then really you land up having to
you're going to have greater problems. Just a question on that you mentioned it now. That with people reducing their breasts because they may feel, it's very big and I'm getting backache, and is that really is that very, very common, or it's a very rare case that happens? I'm just out of curiosity and education.
So I think that it's quite expensive. So less people do that than want to do it. Like I said, everything should be about T's and C's, apply in medicine. So never rush into things in medicine unless you are quite clear about the potential complications. But I do think that if you've got massive breasts and a small body, it can cause shoulder pain and back pain, and you get a rash under your breast. So I understand that. I'm always saying be careful when you go for any surgery around the potential pros or cons around it.
Okay, the last question, and then you can say your words of motivation. If you don't have a lump, there is no cancer. Let's bust that myth.
Okay, so absolutely that's not true. Cancers can start with little leaks from the nipple, and don't squeeze your nipples. But if it leaks on its own, there can changes in the nipple, red inflamed breast, or tiny little calcifications in the cells. So that is a complete misnomer. Okay.
Carol, what are your words of anything, motivation, inspiration, guidance, education to everybody that's listening? I'm not going to just say man, woman. I'm going to say all our listeners regarding breast cancer.
I'm going to say, check your body, know your norm, and together we are more. Okay. So what we have to do is make very, very sure we offer holistic, comprehensive, good health care to everybody, irrespective of medical aid and funding. And we need to know this because together we can, really, we can.
Absolutely.
Make a huge difference.
One last question, remission. If you can just talk about remission quickly. Sorry, this is the last question that I have.
I also don't like the word remission because I always think we're all in remission every day. I mean, basically, once you've had your cancer, you get on with your life. It's thriving, thrivership, not even survivorship. It's not, because survivorship kind of implies we're barely making it through our day. And again, it's listening to your body, going for your tests and checkups, often sometimes not even in your oncology unit, but with your GP, or with what we call a primary oncology survivorship physician, so that people feel safe and secure and not that they're going back into a scary oncology unit. And the outcomes are good. 9 out of 10 ladies alive and well 10 years down the line. If I look at the data in this unit, it's exceptional, and it's due to an amazing team.
Absolutely. Carol, if you can please share some useful numbers for our listeners regarding breast cancer.
So useful numbers, 65% of people, no risk factors, under 10% have genetic risk factors. Picking up cancers early mean 9 out of 10 ladies alive and well 10 years down the line. Almost 90% of ladies do not need to have a mastectomy. Okay, so go for your opinions, go for your second opinions, take power and control of your body. Okay, and ask your doctors questions. Do not be scared to.
And contact details for yourself, your clinic, or the Cancer Association.
So I'm so clueless on it. So I said basically most people in the country have access to my cell phone. I'm quite chilled with it. They can WhatsApp me. I think from a Mill Park Breast Centre, and we offer digital and awareness and information for people wherever you are in the country. The number, I think, is 011-480-5779.
Could you please repeat that, my angel? 011-480.
5779. Better sometimes to email on breast health. No, it's not breast health. It's breast. Is it breast health center, breast care center? Hold on, I'll tell you.
Not a problem.
I told you I have no.
They can Google you, my angel. They can Google you. They can find you on Google.
So let me tell you what it is. It's Breast Health Center, re@gmail.com.
Thank you so
So
much.
Breast Health Center, one word, and the center spelled re@gmail.com. And that actually goes directly to my email as well as the center's email, and we will answer and respond to everyone.
May
Okay.
God bless you. May God bless
Thank
your
you.
team. May God bless everybody that is involved in the holistic development treatment of cancer, breast cancer around the world. Please remember us in your prayers, and please remember that you are appreciated by everyone who has the pleasure of having met you and your team. And continue doing what you're doing. May God bless you in abundance.
Thank you. This is a humbling job, and it's a privilege. And my words just go out to ladies and to gentlemen. Don't be fearful. Choose your team, and one day at a time for all of us, inshallah.
Thank you so much.
All right.
God bless
Thank
you.
you.
God bless you. To everyone that's listening today and send me loads of messages, may the Almighty reward you in abundance. To every woman that is going through cancer, cancer can be beaten. Remember, have faith in the Almighty. Eat correctly, get the right support from your doctor. Positive people, always positive mindset, and nothing is impossible. On behalf of myself and my sound engineer Hamid, we wish you a beautiful week ahead. Please remember me and the IFM family in your prayers. And until we speak again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.